Facebook is using bots to simulate what its users might do. So what this article is talking about is that Facebook needs to be able to test its product just like any other software company. The trouble it runs into is when you have 2.5 billion users, some of those test cases are really hard to find. And what they've found is that a lot of the major problems they run into end up coming out of complex interactions between users. So what they've built is basically a scaled down version of the real live platform that's run live in production, which they call WW, which I wonder if it's code for Westworld is like an inside joke. But the idea is that they've had hundreds of thousands of fake users that are simulated as a mix of hard-coded and machine learning-based bots to basically take the interactions and actions that all of us would take on Facebook to see what sort of issues that they can uncover. So I might take this in a different direction. When I read this article, something I thought about was there's been a couple of companies like Replica and one called Avec, which is actually another Canadian, Sandy McPherson, that are working on creating digital versions of ourselves, replicas of ourselves, as a way to do a bunch of different things. I mean, one, analyze our own behaviors and ways of being. You know, they talk about like being able to practice for like a job interview or like a relationship conversation, like taking a glimpse within yourself. Seems like this is kind of, you know, taking that Facebook user testing, but taking it to yourself. Do you guys see a future where these kind of digital twins play a bigger role, or just other thoughts on this style of simulated social network from the Facebook article?
I can start. So I think this is pretty much, we went from basically the golden age of social from like 2004 to 2017 maybe. Then it was like the abyss of social for 2 years, and now it's the golden age again. There's so much opportunity to bring people together using social technology. House Party is the #1 app in the App Store. TikTok's obviously doing well. You know, there's a lot of examples of this. A popular Silicon Valley app called Clubhouse, well. And I just think that like this sort of like concept is like the bottom of the totem pole in terms of like experiences that people are interested in. Although it's interesting, I just don't see it as like having mass adoption, and I don't see it having mass adoption for a long time, if ever.
Yeah.
Why bottom?
I think there's just so much appetite for like you know, creating platforms for moms to get together, creating platforms for college kids to get together, creating platforms that are audio only and book clubs and wine. And there's just so much social technology that is just like higher order bit that I think that something like this is just, there's less appetite for it from a consumer perspective.
Yeah, I would agree on the consumer side. I think something like this is interesting as a tool for operationalizing AI and ultimately helping you to, you know, train your models and do some things like that. I think, you know, it becomes an interesting tool for something else, but less on the direct consumer application.
What do you think the real motivation of Facebook is to do something like this?
I don't know. Do you have a good answer?
I don't. I mean, I'm always a little bit skeptical, and I have to be careful because my girlfriend works for Facebook, so I have to tread carefully here. But my skeptical
Can we bring her into
here,
the Zoom?
Yeah. The skeptical side of me would say that this is an ideal way for them to test how different ad formats are going to perform with their user base, and then work towards optimizing the performance of their ad network.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what this is, right? Like, I actually don't see this being anything else other than that, right? Is quite frankly just helping them to operationalize their business better and get better insights faster at the end of the day, right? And allow them to operationalize quicker.
Do you guys see any other potential uses for things like simulated social networks or even just simulation of human interactions?
So we've gone through that years ago with something called Second Life, right? And it was really for people who had no lives at the time. And so I think we're still a ways off of ever kind of getting back to something like that. Although, you know what? Some of the video games that we have now are probably pretty close to that, right?
I mean, you guys brought up Fortnite earlier, right? That's almost
Totally.
getting to that level.
Yeah. At
Yeah,
least,
I think that's kind of, I think what's happening right now is you have gaming on one end and you have social networks on the other end. And some of the largest social networks, like basically there's this convergence happening. So gaming platforms are starting to look a lot more like social products, and social products are starting to look a lot more like gaming products.
Cool. We'll move on. Got a cartoon for this segment as well. Cartoonist, what do you got for us?
Yeah. Let's see. I was just writing the caption on one. Can you guys see my screen?
No, not yet.
not yet.
Now we can.
Got it.
Here's one.
Yeah.
A little role reversal here. And then this one. A little Truman Show of bots.
Yeah.
The one
Nice.
I was wrapping up was this programmer that is a little bit disappointed that these are the kind of bots that she's making. Cocktail photos with "Take me back to Cabo" captions.
Awesome.